For the sake of clarity, I should mention that I have a hearing disability that makes me hard of hearing. I've come to accept that there are things in life I may never fully understand, yet I still look back on this experience wondering what could have happened and what I should have done differently. This happened roughly a year ago. The holiday season had just passed, and I was finally settling down after traveling and spending time with family and friends. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood that borders a forest in southern Quebec. Most residents know each other, which creates a comforting, close-knit atmosphere that I've always appreciated. Every winter, I enjoy taking my dog, Monty, for walks in the forest. He's a Rottweiler Husky mix, energetic, strong, and perfect for someone like me who likes to go on long walks and the occasional run. The forest has multiple trails, none particularly challenging, but beautiful in that peaceful, wintry way. One afternoon, after a late lunch, I decided to take Monty out for a walk to burn off some energy. As always, he became wildly excited when we neared the forest entrance. The weather was cold, even for February, and a fresh layer of snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the paths in a clean, untouched white. I let Monty off his leash so he could run around, noticing a few yellow patches and scattered footprints, evidence that other people had already been out with their dogs earlier. Most locals prefer walking before noon because the sun sets early, so I didn't expect to see anyone else on the trail at that hour. About half an hour into the walk, we reached a fork. One path looked completely untouched since the snowfall. Feeling a bit adventurous, I took it. I know the forest well enough to navigate without much thought, and I knew the trail would lead to a clearing. I had brought the binoculars I got for Christmas and wanted to look for birds. When we reached the clearing, I scanned the tree line and spotted something unusual. A blue tarp stretched between branches, forming what looked like a makeshift shelter. Curiosity tugged at me, but daylight was fast fading, and I decided it was better to head home. Monty ran ahead as usual, but something about his behavior felt different. He was stiff, alert, and sniffing every inch of the trail. When I looked down, I saw what had caught his attention. Fresh footprints. Large ones, far bigger than my own. I even held my boot over them to compare. They weren't mine, and they hadn't been there earlier. There were no other splits in the trail. Whoever made them must have passed me while I was looking through my binoculars. It was the only explanation I could think of, so I tried to brush it off. By now, it was noticeably darker, though still bright enough to make out my surroundings. Partway back, Monty suddenly stopped and began barking furiously behind me. I turned and saw him. A man, tall, easily over 6 feet, stood barely a meter away. He wore charcoal-colored snow pants and a white camouflage jacket. He didn't move, didn't step closer, just stood there with his hands in his pockets. I didn't recognize him from the neighborhood, so I assumed he was a hiker or someone passing through. His mouth moved as if he was saying something, but between the poor lighting and my hearing impairment, I couldn't tell what language he was speaking, or even if he was speaking to me at all. I cursed myself for not bringing my phone. I tried telling him, gesturing more than speaking, that I was hard of hearing and needed to get home before it got too dark. Eventually, Monty and I made our way out of the forest. I got home around what must have been late afternoon. Darkness had fully settled in. I went through my usual evening routine and didn't think much more about the encounter. Until the middle of the night. I woke up to Monty licking my hand, a habit he usually saves for mornings. Confused, I checked my phone. It was 3 a.m. I saw a message from my neighbor asking if everything was okay because Monty had been barking like crazy. But Monty wasn't even in my room anymore. I went downstairs to find him barking violently at the patio door. My eyes were still adjusting, and at first I couldn't see anything outside. Then the motion sensor light flicked on. My heart dropped. The man from the forest was standing in my backyard. I didn't hesitate. I backed away from the door and texted 911 as fast as I ever have in my life. Then I ran upstairs with Monty and grabbed the machete I keep under my bed. I'm a smaller woman, though trained in martial arts, and I know that sometimes the smartest fight is the one you avoid entirely. I positioned myself across from my bedroom door, Monty by my side. My heart was pounding so loudly it almost drowned out his growling. Then Monty lunged toward the door, barking with a level of fear and aggression I'd never heard from him. A shadow moved beneath the doorframe, blocking the glow of my nightlight. The man was just outside my room. Those minutes stretched into what felt like hours. I was sure the handle would turn, that the door would burst open, but it never did. When the police finally arrived, I told them everything. They searched my property and found the patio door glass shattered. Nothing was missing, nothing stolen. The gate to the forest out back had been left wide open. The officers suspected he'd escaped through the woods. I showed them the clearing and the shelter I had seen earlier. For the next few days, I stayed with a family friend while the patio door was replaced. I never heard anything from the police afterward. Since that night, I've avoided the forest entirely. I stick to the roads when I walk Monty now, doing my best not to think too much about what happened or what could have. My name is Ember, and I'm a 16-year-old girl living in Illinois with my younger sister, Kate, who's 15. My dad works for a deforestation group about a half an hour from our house. It was a normal morning on December 5th as Kate and I were getting ready to go out to the movies. We decided to watch a newer horror movie, Terrifier 3. It was rated 18+, but no one questioned us. We looked older than we actually were, so getting in was easy. About halfway through the movie, just as everyone was holding their breath waiting for the next big scene, my phone buzzed loudly, loud enough for the entire theater to hear. People turned and glared. It was humiliating. Kate and I rushed out, and I even tripped on the way down the stairs, which only made it worse. Outside the theater, I checked my phone. It was a message from my dad. He asked if we could bring him lunch, since the small cafe in the woods near his job was closed for the day. Kate and I exchanged confused looks, but it wasn't unusual enough to question. We went home, packed some food, and drove to the woods. I've always loved that place. It's big, quiet, and beautiful. A long hill leads down to a lake, perfect for taking pictures. When we arrived, I tried calling my dad to let him know we were close, but he didn't answer. That was strange, considering he had just messaged us. I sent him a text instead, telling him we were here with his lunch. A few seconds later, I saw the 3 typing dots. He replied, telling us to walk down the hill and wait for him by the lake. We followed the instructions. The sun was setting early, giving the sky a glowing orange color across the hill. As we walked, Kate pointed toward the lake. A man dressed all in black was sitting at the edge of the deck with his back to us. We assumed it was our dad. We slowed our steps and stopped behind him. I called his name. He didn't move. Kate tensed up beside me, and her uneasiness made everything feel worse. I stepped forward, reached out, and pulled down the hood he was wearing. It wasn't our dad. Kate and I screamed as the man turned around, waving my dad's phone in the air and smiling like he enjoyed our fear. I demanded to know why he had my dad's phone, but he didn't answer. He lunged forward and grabbed Kate's arm. She shrieked. I pulled her free and we ran. We ran faster than we've ever run before. I could hear his footsteps pounding behind us, getting closer. I didn't look back, not once. We reached the car just in time. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and the man appeared at my window before crouching out of sight. I reversed as fast as I could and sped home. When we got home,
My parents were there. Breathless, we told them everything. My dad was furious. He said his phone had been stolen at work earlier, so he left and drove home. The man must have used the phone to text us. The police tracked the phone's IMEI and found it still sitting on the deck by the lake. They returned it to my dad, but there wasn't much else they could do. I thought it was over, but it wasn't. 6 hours later, around 1 in the morning, I received a message from an unknown number. It said, "I like that your house is lit only by your bedroom TV." I froze. My blood ran cold. I turned off the TV and listened. Then I heard rustling outside my window on the second floor. I slowly peeked through the blinds. The man was standing there, smiling, pointing a gun at my window. I screamed and fell back as glass shattered everywhere. My parents and Kate rushed into my room. I warned them to get down. When my dad looked outside, the man was gone. A loud crash came from the kitchen downstairs, more glass breaking. We ran to the bedroom and locked it while Kate called 911. My mom held us as we cried. I kept thinking, how did he know where we lived? When the police arrived, they searched the house and found nothing. But then one officer checked the car. A small air tag was attached to my tire. That's how he tracked us. That's how he knew our house, and that's why he crouched when I reversed, so I wouldn't see him attach it. The police promised to patrol the area and do everything they could. Months passed. The man was never found, but he never came back, and I pray it stays that way. My family is still traumatized, but what hurts the most is the guilt. I should have realized something was wrong when my dad stopped answering calls and only replied through text. I should have been more cautious. Now I know better. I will never go to secluded places again, especially when someone else's safety depends on me.
It was 2021, and if I had to describe my day in one word, hectic. Work was a complete show. This was prime COVID time, so I was still working from home. I was supposed to meet my extended family upstate, but after a nearly 3-hour Zoom meeting that dragged on way too long, I was already an hour and a half late, and that wasn't counting the 2-hour drive to my parents' house. I poured myself 2 cups of coffee before leaving. God knew I'd need them. The second I opened my front door, I realized the drive would be more of a nightmare than I thought. The snow, the wind, the streets barely plowed, at least 2 feet of snow already on the ground and more on the way. I crawled through residential roads at under 25, but once I hit the highway, I sped up to 70. Way too fast for those conditions, but at the time it felt fine. I reached my parents around 9 p.m. Dinner had already started, but thankfully not by much. A few drinks and gifts later, I lost all track of time. I completely forgot I still had to drive home. When I finally got in my car, it was past midnight, and another foot of snow had fallen. I was buzzed, tired, but I told myself I was sober enough to drive. I just wanted to go home. The roads were dead empty, completely silent. I made the mistake of speeding up to 40 on a long road, and as I approached a bend, my car went into a skid. I tried not to panic. I'd skidded before. I steered into it, downshifted, but the curve was coming fast, and I wasn't slowing down. My car shot off the road and slammed into a tree. The airbag exploded in my face. I was lucky to be mostly unhurt. The car, though, completely totaled. I called roadside assistance. 40 minutes, they said, maybe more. Then I called my dad to come wait with me. He said he was on his way. And that's when the sound started. Footsteps in the snow, somewhere out in the dark. I stepped outside the car, listening. The footsteps stopped. But then a new sound, a wet, slurping sound. I stared toward the tree line. I could see movement, maybe a figure. "Hello?" I called out. Nothing. Freaked out, I got back in the car and locked the doors. A minute later, footsteps again. Then something slammed against my passenger side window, hard. I stepped out again, and that's when I saw them. Footprints circling my entire car, then leading off into the woods. And blood, drops of blood in the snow. I grabbed my 9mm from the glove compartment and followed the tracks. The blood grew heavier, splattered. Something was bleeding badly. Then I saw it, a dark mass in the snow. I turned on my flashlight. A deer, ripped open, completely decapitated, no head anywhere. Terrified, I rushed back to my car, opened the driver's side door, and nearly vomited. Sitting on my driver's seat was the deer's severed head, propped upright, staring at me. I ran. After a few minutes, headlights approached. Thankfully, it was my dad. I got in, babbling the whole story. He didn't believe a word of it. But when we drove back to my car, the footprints were still there. The deer's head, though, gone. Only a huge pool of blood left on the driver's seat. The deer's body was gone too. All that remained were drag marks in the snow. The tow truck arrived. My dad asked if I wanted to call the police, but honestly, I was so drained, I just wanted to sleep. I figured the police wouldn't accomplish anything. So, that's my story. I still have no idea who or what was in those woods that night. Maybe someone wanted to scare me, or maybe they had worse intentions.